As a two-time Instant Pot cookbook author and an Instant Pot expert, people ask me all the time, what are your favorite things to make in the Instant Pot? So today I'm counting down my all-time favorite recipes to make in the Instant Pot. All of these recipes and more can be found in my brand new beautiful cookbook, Enjoy. It's 101 pressure cooker recipes for everyone. If you use the code YouTube, then you can get a little discount on there. I include fees, taxes, shipping. Everything is included in the price, so go and snag it. Unfortunately, we are not doing international orders right now, but in the US, this should get to you in just a couple days. The first recipe comes from page 141 of my new cookbook. It's my loaded baked potato soup. This is one of those recipes that gets so many compliments, and it's a good beginner recipe because it's really simple and there are ways that you can make it super easy using bagged hash browns, so I know you're going to love it too. Let's get started by turning our Instant Pot to the high saute function, and then I'm going to add 3 to 5 pieces of thick cut bacon. Now I definitely recommend using the thick cut bacon so then there's enough fat and flavor in the soup. So I have just a couple pieces of bacon that we're gonna add to our Instant Pot and crisp up. The bacon's done crisping and I just scooped it out and put it in a separate bowl. Then you should have about a 1/4 cup of bacon grease in there, and that's totally fine. Just keep that in because we wanna keep that flavor and a little bit of that fat. So to this, we are going to add 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, 1 2-pound bag of hash brown potatoes, and you can use regular potatoes if you like. I've got those instructions on my website. Next, we have 2 tablespoons of onion flakes, a teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. And just like the last recipe, this one's so awesome because you can pre-prepare this and use it as a freezer meal. Just put all these ingredients in a bag and prepare it from frozen, so it's really easy. Okay, mix that around for a minute. And then we're going to add 2 cups of chicken broth. I always use 2 cups of hot water with 2 teaspoons of Better Than Bouillon. Perfect. If you like, you can add a little bit of that bacon to cook in with it, but I prefer to sprinkle it on the top because I think it just kind of looks prettier, but you can also cook it in the soup as well. And that's it. We're gonna put the lid on it. We're gonna cook it for 3 minutes from frozen, and then we'll add a couple extra ingredients at the end. The loaded baked potato soup is ready to come out, so I just turned the knob from the sealing to the venting position, and this is what it looks like. Now this is the fun part. After you pressure cook the loaded potato soup, you're going to take a potato masher and just mash these potatoes up about 5 or 8 times, just to kind of break up some of those potatoes. We don't want to make mashed potatoes, so we're just going to mash it up just a little bit to still have some chunks, but not too many. To this, we are going to add 1 cup of heavy cream because heavy cream just makes everything more delicious. If you don't want to use cream, you can use milk, 1/2 and 1/2. And then this is what makes it taste like loaded baked potato soup. It's 1 cup of sour cream. This is so good. That sour cream is really important because it makes it taste like an actual loaded baked potato and not just potato soup. And then we've got 1 cup of shredded cheddar cheese. I always add extra on top of each bowl. I like to let that kind of melt down. I also like adding some of the bacon back into the soup, but I also like having a lot of it to kind of put on top of each bowl just because then it's really pretty. But we can put some of that in there as well. And that's it. This only cooked for 3 minutes. It used a frozen bag of potato hash browns, and it tastes like you slaved over it all day. The next thing I love to make in my Instant Pot comes from page 41 in my new cookbook. It's Instant Pot hard-boiled eggs. There is no doing it any other way once you do it in the pressure cooker because those peels, those shells just fall right off, and it's so easy, so convenient. There's no guesswork, and they're perfect every single time. Something that's really cool about our new cookbook is that it comes with a little QR code on every single page. There's a recipe and there's a photo and a pro tip on every single recipe. But this QR code takes you to either a full blog post or a YouTube video that gives a further explanation on this recipe. So it's really exciting. The only things you need are eggs, a cup of water, and something to keep them off the bottom of the pot. I personally use a steamer basket, If you don't have any of those, just make something out of some foil. You can make a little ring like this, you can make a little triangle, whatever it takes to keep them off the bottom of the pot. I'm just gonna fill up this basket with 12 eggs. This recipe works for as many eggs as you want. You can do 1 egg or you can do a full basket's worth. And what about if you're one of those domestic urban farmers and you have your own chickens that lay your own eggs? Well, they'll work too. The age and the freshness of the eggs may make a difference sometime, but I think with my method, it works for any egg. Now add in 1 cup of water. If you're using a 3-quart Instant Pot, use 1 cup of water. If you're using an 8-quart Instant Pot, use 1.5 cups of water, no more than that. The reason you don't want to add more water than that is because it's going to take longer to come to pressure and they're going to be cooking for even longer. You don't want overcooked eggs. Then throw the lid on, turn the knob to sealing, and then this is the most crucial part, the timing. For perfectly cooked Instant Pot hard-boiled eggs, do 2 minutes on high pressure, followed by a 13 to 15 minute natural pressure release. Once you add the time onto your Instant Pot, it will pause momentarily and then say, on. This means that your pot has registered the 2-minute cook time and it's starting to heat up and pressurize. Once your pot comes to pressure, this pin right here will pop up and it will be flush with the lid. If you hear any sputtering out of here, that's totally normal. So why do I do 2 minutes with a 13 to 15 minute natural pressure release? With the 5-5-5 or the 6-6-6 method, that intense pressure cook is cooking those eggs at a super high temperature for 5 or 6 whole minutes. It's as if you took a soda bottle or something carbonated in a can and just was shaking it for 5 or 6 minutes straight. That's a lot of pressure that's going to build in there. With my method, going 2 minutes at high pressure, it gets a really intense pressure cook for only 120 seconds, and then it just gets to relax. And now that we're at 15 minutes, I'm going to open the lid. And what I usually do is just take out the whole steamer basket full of eggs and rinse them under cold water. Put the steamer basket back in and then fill up the whole pot with cold water and ice. Cooling down the eggs like this immediately after they're done cooking is super important. The reason is because these eggs are super hot once they come out of the pressure cooker. We want to shock them with super ice cold water so then those peels and the membrane inside detaches from the wall of the shell. It also stops the cooking process, so then you have perfectly cooked eggs that aren't overdone. I never time this step, I just make sure that they're completely cool, usually about 10 or 15 minutes. While these eggs were cooking, I also made a batch of eggs with a 6-minute cook time, a 6-minute natural pressure release, and an ice bath. And now we're going to compare the two. First, we're going to do a peel test, then we're going to do a texture test, and then lastly, a taste test. First, we're going to start out with The 2-minute egg is a little bit drier, but not so dry, but it's not gummy. The next recipe comes from page 119 in my new cookbook. It's Instant Pot ribs. These are fall off the bone, so tender. You can marinate them or you don't have to, but they're still done in about an hour or less. Instant Pot ribs are so good, and I know they're gonna be your favorite too. In addition to regular Instant Pot ribs, I also love to have the country style ribs in the Instant Pot because they are so tender, so cheap, way fast, and everyone loves these too. The great thing about making ribs, country style or baby back ribs in the Instant Pot is that it is so fast. Everything comes out amazingly tender and fall off the bone, and it's so simple. Here are the things you'll need for the ribs. So first you need a paper towel and a very sharp knife, and then we're going to take the ribs. So I like to use the ribs from Costco, and I kind of portion them out. So I had these in a sandwich bag. And we are going to just trim them up really quick. I like wearing gloves for this. So we'll just take our rack of ribs out of the bag, and then you want to turn them so they are upside down like this. Usually Costco will take this silver skin off, but this batch they didn't. So we are going to peel this silvery layer off the back because it will not cook down, it will not go away. So the easiest way I found to do this is to take a very sharp knife and just slide it under the very first bone. So here we've lifted up one little corner, and then you want the paper towel so it's a little grippy, and you just put it right under and pull. It should come off in one piece, or sometimes it doesn't like that, and I'll just throw this away. Sometimes I have to go in with a knife like this, a little bit more. Now what I like to do is just give it a little trim and take off any large chunks of excess fat. Flip it around and do the same thing on the other side. Just trim off any large chunks of fat. Since we're not cooking these low and slow like you would on a smoker, we don't really have time to render down all this fat, so we definitely want to get rid of it. Next, put your favorite dry rub all over the ribs. You can use any type of barbecue rub, or I have a homemade dry rub recipe on my website. Something sweet goes really nicely with ribs. It just complements it very nicely. So season liberally with the rub. And do a little bit on the back. You don't have to do quite as much on the back, because that's mostly where the bones are and you're not eating that, but I like to season everywhere that there's a good amount of meat. Now for serving's ease, I like to cut these before they go in the Instant Pot. You can either do half a rack of ribs per person, or you can do about a third. So I'm just going to take my knife and cut these into thirds. And we'll cut this one in half as well because it's kind of actually a large piece. So we've got 4 pieces, and that is a really nice, decent serving per person. Now that our ribs are prepped, we're going to do the Instant Pot liquids. So start out with 1 cup of apple juice, and you can use apple juice or apple cider. I actually just ran out, so I mixed in about half a cup of apple sauce and added some water to make 1 cup. Next, add 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, and half a tablespoon of liquid smoke. Since we're not using an actual smoker and we won't have that yummy smokiness from that, we're going to add just a little bit of this into the cooking liquid, and that will add that smokiness. If you don't have liquid smoke, then what you can do is just do a little blob of barbecue sauce, and that has a little bit of smokiness in it. Now just swirl it around. To To this, add the trivet that came with your Instant Pot, or just something to keep the ribs off the very bottom of the pot. And then we're going to layer our ribs into the pot to allow some airflow. That looks great. What you don't want is them just all stacked together like a stack of pancakes, because then they won't cook evenly. You just want them to kind of have their own room to breathe and to cook. Now, my preferred method is to have all of this cooking liquid, the apple juice, the soy sauce, the dry rub and everything, in a bag overnight, marinated. And that's usually my preferred method, so then they get extra flavor. But if you want to do a quick method like today, then this is just fine. Place your ribs in the Instant Pot. Twist the lid on, make sure the knob is in the sealing position, and these will cook for 45 minutes with a 10-minute natural pressure release. These have been cooking in the Instant Pot, and I will say they do not look extremely pretty when they come out, but this is what they should look like. And I'm going to just put them on a foil-lined baking sheet. And you can either put these in the oven on broil, or you can put them on the grill or a smoker to help kind of tighten up that sauce and get a little bit of a crisp on the finished ribs. This cooking liquid can just be discarded, and now we have our ribs. Now I'm going to baste them with some barbecue sauce of your choice. Doesn't really matter what it is. And at this point, if you have a little bit more rub that you want to put on there, definitely do that as well after you brush the sauce on. I'm gonna go throw these on the grill for about 30 minutes, so then that sauce can tighten up and they can get a little bit of a char on them. But like I said, you can put these in the broiler for about 5 minutes on high or about 8 minutes on low until they get kind of crispy. You can also put them in the air fryer and they will be absolutely delicious. Okay, these are the complete ribs. Look how amazing these look. They took about an hour start to finish, and they are so good. So what I did after they came out of the Instant Pot, I basted them with some barbecue sauce, and then I put them under the broiler for only about 5 minutes. They get a little bit of this char on them, which is so nice. And then I like to do one more basting of sauce, so then they have a little bit of like fresh sticky sauce. And I'm not going to use my fingers, but I'm just going to take some right off of here. Oh my gosh, that looks so good, look. Totally fall apart tender. Those are so good and so easy. Okay, if you want something even easier, next we're going to make the Instant Pot country style ribs, so let's get going on those. Next, we're making country style ribs. Now these are the boneless kind, but you can also get the bone-in kind. The time will stay the same for cooking. Country style ribs are really good because they're usually a really good price, and it's nice not to have to deal with the bones, and they're delicious. So we're gonna take about 4 pounds of country style ribs and add them directly to our Instant Pot liner. And then I'm going to just use a little bit of my favorite dry rub and sprinkle some on to each rib. Since I'm going to be kind of alternating the way that these ribs are placed in the Instant Pot, I want to just make sure that they get a good layer in there of seasoning on each one. If you want to add more flavor to your country style ribs, what you can do is season them and then sear them either in the Instant Pot liner or on the stove. Next, we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of Dr. Pepper, Coke, root beer, or you can even use apple juice, beer, broth, or wine in place of the soda. We're gonna do just about 3/4 of a cup in here as our cooking liquid. Next, add about 1/2 cup of your favorite barbecue sauce. You can also use sugar-free, and you can also use sugar-free soda as well if you like, to keep it low carb and diabetic friendly. And I rarely measure when I do this. I just kind of throw them all in there, get it in the cooking liquid, and that is literally it. we are going to cook these ribs for 40 minutes with a 15-minute natural pressure release. Now that the country style ribs are out of the Instant Pot, we are going to do the exact same thing we did with the regular ribs. So I'm going to just take them out of the Instant Pot, put them on a foil lined baking sheet, and then baste them with some barbecue sauce. Next, I'm going to put them in the oven on the high broil setting for about 5-ish minutes, or until they get really nice and crispy and browned and that sauce settles a little bit. Then they come out looking like this. They're crispy, they're golden, they're so tender and delicious. Every 4th of July, this is the #1 recipe on my website. It comes from page 53 in my new cookbook. It's Instant Pot salt potatoes. Salt potatoes are so good and I won't do them any other way. They're such a like yummy and easy, but like a big wow factor side dish, and these salt potatoes are so good. Yes, you read the title of this video correctly. We're making potatoes boiled with 1 cup of salt today. This recipe is literally just potatoes boiled in salt water, and I know it sounds crazy, but I promise you don't taste the 1 cup of salt. The salt kind of creates this beautiful crust around the potatoes, and it makes them super creamy and delicious inside, and then kind of crisp and salty on the outside. They are honestly amazing. Instant Pot salt potatoes are a huge summer cultural staple, and they come from Syracuse, New York, so let's get started making them. Start out with about 2.5 pounds of these little baby potatoes. These are the medley that I use from Costco. They're just called Delectable Delights Gourmet Fresh Medley Idaho potatoes. And they're red and gold color. They're, you see, about the size of like a little mochi ice cream. And so what I do is I just put them straight into a steamer basket, and then I'm going to give these a rinse. You can use as many potatoes as you are wanting to eat. I always just take off any little pieces like that. And of course, make sure that there aren't any potatoes that are molding or soft or damaged in any way. Now that the potatoes are rinsed, we are going to just place the whole steamer basket inside of the Instant Pot liner. If you don't have one of these steamer baskets, that's totally fine. What you can do is just pour them directly into the Instant Pot liner. You'll just have to strain them when they're done cooking. Now I know this part sounds crazy, but next we are going to add 1 cup of table salt. I always use the red mineral salt, but you can also use just the cheapest salt that you can find. Now dump the entire cup of salt over the potatoes. I know it sounds crazy, but I promise they do not absorb all this salt. The salt just makes an incredible crust around the potatoes, and it makes them so good. Next, add enough water to cover the potatoes. You want them completely submerged in the salt water. Now, I just like to kind of mix them around to help dissolve the salt. Okay, now we're ready to cook our potatoes. Now we're going to put the lid on our salt potatoes, ensure that the sealing pin is in the sealed position, and then pressure cook for 5 minutes on high pressure with a 10-minute natural pressure release. So while the potatoes are cooking, I want to share with you kind of the story behind the salt potatoes. So back in the day, Irish salt miners would come to work in Syracuse, New York, upstate New York, and they would bring a small bag of these little baby potatoes, and they would just boil them right there straight in the salt mines. And that is how salt potatoes were created. Today we're using the Instant Pot because it makes it so easy and quick, and I promise you these are the easiest summer side dish ever because you just boil them, you don't have to mash them, add any extra ingredients, just a little bit of salt and butter at the end. It's so good for a summer potluck. Our potatoes are actually done over here, so let's go get them out and I'll show you how to serve them. The salt potatoes are done now, so we're going to remove the lid. The water will still probably be a little bubbly, but you can see already that the potatoes are a little bit wrinkly on the outside. That's exactly what you want. Now what I like to do is just take out the whole basket like this, or you can go and drain them in the sink. Now this is what they'll look when they are completely done. They'll have kind of a little wrinkly skin, and they are so tender on the inside, a little waxy feeling on the outside, and they are so amazing. So what I like to do is add a little bit of melted butter right over the top. I like to serve with a little extra butter on top. just a little sprinkling of some salt, because the salt does not get absorbed into the potatoes. You still want a little bit of extra fresh salt, and then a little bit of fresh parsley that I'm just chopping right on top of the potatoes. There you have it. Our salt potatoes are done. Look how delicious they look. Now, can you see why this would be such an easy side dish to bring to a barbecue, potluck? Because you just boil the potatoes and then you take them like this. It's so easy. I've got a little hot potato here. It has got some butter, some salt. Yum. The next recipe I love comes from page 134 in the new cookbook. It's Instant Pot Fettuccine Alfredo. My kids love this one too, and it's so easy because you just throw everything into the Instant Pot. You don't have to cook the noodles before. Everything goes in at the same time, and it is so good. You can also add chicken or shrimp to this recipe, and it makes a full complete meal in one pot. Start out with 1.5 cups of chicken broth. I just use water reconstituted with the Better Than bouillon. I use this every single day. 2 cups of heavy cream. 1 teaspoon of minced garlic, or you can use garlic powder. 1 teaspoon of salt. 1/4 teaspoon ground pepper. 1 teaspoon of dried parsley, and 2 tablespoons of butter. To this, I'm adding 8 ounces of fettuccine noodles, and since you can see that they're not going to fit in the Instant Pot like this, we are going to snap them in half and then alternate them in the Instant Pot so they don't stick. Now, if you want, you can add chicken tenderloins or pieces of chicken breast to this recipe. I also have a shrimp fettuccine alfredo recipe where you put this frozen shrimp in after it's done pressure cooking, but we're just making the traditional today. So next, pat down the noodles so they get submerged in the liquid as best as you can. And that's it. We're going to put the lid on the Instant Pot, turn the knob to the sealing position, and we're going to cook this for 7 minutes. So press the manual or pressure cook button. Adjust to 7 minutes on high pressure, and then we're going to do a 5-minute natural pressure release. So 7 minutes pressure cooking, and then until it says L5 is the natural pressure release. After the 7-minute natural pressure release, there's still going to be some steam in there, so you need to do a quick release on the rest of the pressure and carefully open the lid, and we have our Alfredo. Now stir this around. We want to make sure the noodles are broken up, and you'll see it's a little thin looking, but that's okay. It's going to thicken up right away. This smells so good. If you want to add like some canned chopped clams in here, that would be delicious. Some frozen shrimp, so good. So stir this around. We want to make sure that the noodles are broken up, and we want to give this a chance to kind of just release some of that heat. Perfect. To this, I'm going to slowly sprinkle in 1/2 cup of shredded Parmesan cheese, very slowly because we don't want it to clump up, seize, and we just want to slowly emulsify this into the sauce. Now we'll serve this up with our Instant Pot broccoli and enjoy. If you've been here more than 2 minutes, you know that I love making broccoli in my Instant Pot. This comes from page 66 in my new cookbook, and if you've never made steamed broccoli in the Instant Pot, you'll never do it any other way. And I love it because it doesn't feel boiled. Like, it doesn't feel waterlogged. It's not watery and it's not soggy. It's very crisp, it's tender, and it's perfectly cooked every single time. And there's only a 0-minute cook time. You want to make sure you cut up any large chunks like this. You want to cut into more uniform pieces. We want everything to cook a little bit more evenly. I've got all my broccoli pieces in a steamer basket. You don't necessarily need to have a steamer basket, but I do think it's the #1 accessory that you should buy. You can watch my which Instant Pot accessories to buy video. I'll link that in here, and you can see what you should and shouldn't buy. So now that the broccoli is all in pieces, I have it in a basket and I've already washed it. We're going to put it in the Instant Pot. I'm going to place my steamer basket full of broccoli florets into the Instant Pot, and this is a 6-quart Instant Pot. I'm adding 3/4 of a cup of water. Not 1 cup of water, not any more or less, 3/4 of a cup. Now put the lid on your Instant Pot, turn the knob to the sealing position, not venting, and we are going to cook this for 0 minutes. So that means we're gonna press manual or pressure cook and put this to 0 minutes. That means that it's going to come up to pressure, and immediately after it has come up to pressure, we're going to depressurize it. It cooks that quickly. Now it says on, it's registering, it's heating up. As soon as this beeps and it says L000, Then we are going to turn the sealing knob from the sealing to the venting position. It's going to be a lot more violent than the last one because there's a lot of pressure in there and it's just brand new and fresh. The Instant Pot just beeped. It says L000 and we're going to immediately do a quick release. Can we agree there is nothing worse than overcooked broccoli? So that is why we immediately have to take off the lid, and you can use this broccoli, eat it right away. If for whatever reason your broccoli is not fork tender and it's not ready to go like this, what you can do is just put the lid back on. Don't do anything, just let it cook with the residual steam and the residual heat, and it will be perfectly cooked. But isn't that so much easier than boiling or trying to steam this on the stove? We make several pounds of broccoli each week and just try and add it to every meal. It's so simple to do it in the Instant Pot. And there's the finished dish. We've got our Instant Pot Alfredo and our Instant Pot broccoli. This is like a 15-minute meal start to finish. This next recipe is kind of one that really put me on the map like 6 years ago when I first started doing this. It comes from page 77 of Enjoy. It's my taco lettuce wraps. It starts out with ground beef and quinoa and beans, and it's just this delicious, super healthy filling for lettuce wraps or burritos, and you can feed a lot of people for not very much money, so it's a really good meal, especially when you're on a budget. First, we're starting with 1 pound of ground beef, or you can use turkey if you like, but I'm actually having this recipe today, but I'm going to tell you the full recipe amounts. First, press the saute button on your Instant Pot and bring it up to heat. It will say hot when it's ready. Then you take 1 pound of ground beef, and we're just going to let that saute until it's cooked. This is the masher that I've been using that I was kind of skeptical about at first, but it's actually really, really good, especially for dishes where you want the meat to be really finely ground. To this, I'm adding 2 to 3 tablespoons of homemade taco seasoning, which I have the recipe on my website. And you don't have to use homemade, but I mean, I bet you probably have all of the ingredients as it is. Just going to put that in as it cooks to add more flavor. And honestly, that is cooked enough. We don't even have to fully cook it. To this, we are adding 1 cup of quinoa. Make sure that you rinse and drain this if that's what your package instructions say. Quinoa is a really healthy grain, and it's actually a seed. But we're just adding dry quinoa, and that's gonna act as a healthy filler. And then 1 can of black beans. Like I said, for me personally today, I'm having this recipe, so this is half. If you like a little bit more spice, you can also add some green chilies, but my kids don't really like it that spicy, so today we're just doing it this way. What this does is you get the flavor, the consistency, and everything we love about ground beef tacos, but you get to feed way more people for half the price. To this, add 2 cups of beef broth. I'm just doing water mixed with beef bouillon powder. Now turn off the saute function and put the lid on, and we're going to pressure cook this for only 2 minutes on high pressure. You might have just a little bit of a hard time putting it on if it was hot. So also make sure that your knob is put in the sealing position, and then we'll cook this for 2 minutes. After it has naturally released the pressure for a minimum of 10 minutes, which I've actually left mine for 45 minutes because I had to go pick up kids. And look how awesome this is. So it's kind of like rice and beans and meat, but the texture of quinoa, I think honestly feels a little bit like ground beef, like ground meat. So this is amazing. Now, I don't like adding the extra carbs, so some people like to put this like in a tortilla, and it's basically just like tacos. But I like to do mine in a lettuce wrap. I've got my lettuce in these Rubbermaid Brilliance containers. I've talked about these in my Amazon videos. These are amazing. They keep produce fresh forever. Take a couple lettuce wraps, spoon some of this yummy filling on here, and then you basically just eat it like a taco. It's so good. You can add cheese, salsa, yum, guac, all the things. Little salsa action, you can do some guac, cilantro cheese, all of your favorite taco fixings. And this was done in 30 minutes, not even 30 minutes, amazing. Enjoy. I couldn't make a list of my favorite Instant Pot recipes without mentioning Zuppa Toscana. This comes from page 145 out of my new book. My Zuppa Toscana recipe is like golden. It is so good. It's better than any other Zuppa Toscana I've ever had at a restaurant or a potluck. It is amazing, and it only cooks for 1 minute. So first we're going to start out by sauteing a ½ pound of thick cut bacon in the Instant Pot and then taking that out after it has crisped up. I've already done that here. And then I leave about 2 tablespoons of the bacon grease inside the pan. Next we're gonna add 1 chopped onion, and I just use pre-chopped onion, right in there with all of that bacon grease. And then we're gonna do 1 pound of Jimmy Dean sausage. I find that the Jimmy Dean brand is actually like worth splurging on. I don't really like using store brand sausage. This one just tastes really good, and since it's the main protein, I definitely recommend just spending a little bit extra to get the higher quality sausage. To the sausage and the onions, I'm adding 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. And then to this 1 teaspoon of salt, ½ teaspoon of pepper, and ½ teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. If you don't like it spicy, then just do just a pinch of the red pepper flakes. You still want that flavor. And then we're gonna use that little chopper masher thing that I bought on that Amazon video I did earlier this summer. And we want to just chop this all up. Try and lift up some of that fond on the bottom of the pot from the bacon. All those browned bits, that's all flavor that we want to suck off the bottom of the pot and scrape off. The meat and the onions are looking good. They don't have to be like 100% done, just like 90% done, because it's all gonna cook. Okay, to this, we are going to add 1 cup of chicken broth. So I have my chicken broth here. It's just 6 cups of water with 6 teaspoons of better than bouillon. I like to just do like 1 cup right at the beginning and then deglaze the pot. So the pot is still on saute mode. I'm just taking my ThermoWorks spatula, my silicone spatula, it's the best one out there, and just scrape everything off the bottom of the pot. We really want to make sure that all that flavor is lifted off the pot. So 1, we get that flavor and it tastes good. 2nd, because we don't want it to burn and get the burn notice. All right, looks good. Okay, so to this we are going to add 5 potatoes. I think this is about 5 cups. 5 or 6 potatoes. I find 1 regular, like small to medium potato is usually about 1 cup. So I cut these up into little triangles like you can see here. It's very simple. Now we're gonna add the rest of our chicken broth. If you'd like to do a lower carb option, you can do cauliflower in place of the potatoes. If you like more meat, you can add an additional pound of sausage. I usually like to do 2 more cups of liquid when I do that. And that's it. I do not like to pressure cook with the crispy bacon in there because I feel like it kind of gets soggy. So I'm just going to cook this for 1 minute on high pressure. The reason it's only 1 minute is because everything else is cooked besides the potatoes, and these potatoes are super tiny. We don't want to make mashed potatoes, so we just want to cook these through. It only takes 1 minute. So we're gonna put the lid on and pressure cook for 1 minute. The Zuppa Toscana is done. It only cooked for 1 minute, and this is what it looks like. So you'll see when you take off the lid, there's kind of a red film on there. That's just some fat. If you use spicy sausage, this will be really red. So if you don't like it, you can just use a skimmer and just take off some of that fat off the top. If it doesn't bother you, which it doesn't really bother me, you can just leave it. So to this, we are going to now add 1 bunch of kale that we chiffonaded. And I like to kind of massage it with my fingers or like with my hands a little bit, just to tenderize the kale. So we are going to add 1 bunch, or however much you want. If you don't like that much kale, don't put in that much kale. But we are just going to let this wilt for just a second, so I kind of press it down. We don't want to crush up those beautiful potatoes, so you want to be really gentle. And you can see some of the potatoes have broken, and then that skin on the potato turns into a little ribbon. It's really pretty, just swimming throughout the soup. And that kale only takes about 1 or 2 minutes to really wilt down. And then we'll add the rest of our bacon. Or if you want to save some for the top, you can always do that as well. And then the last ingredient, which is the best, is just 1 cup of heavy cream. If you don't want to do heavy cream, you don't have to. It's really good without the cream, but we really like the cream. Now mix that in. And this is a showstopper. It's delicious. You can add a little bit of extra salt and pepper or crushed red pepper flakes if you like, but we love it just like this. Last but not least is my kids' absolute favorite recipe. It comes from 170 in my cookbook. It's rice pudding. I love rice pudding, and this is one of the best recipes you're going to find. Like, I get reviews and emails and messages all day, every day, just for this recipe because it's that good. And just because it's my kids' favorite, it's my favorite too, because it's such a bonding recipe for us. I love it, and I hope you will too. So we've pressure cooked now, and we are going to add sugar to our rice. You can go anywhere from 1/4 cup to 3/4 or even a full cup of sugar, depending on how sweet you like it. We like it right about 1/2 cup to 3/4 cup. And I've also used a sweetener with this, so you don't have to use just straight sugar. You can use a different kind of sweetener if you like that. And the rice is still steaming hot, so we're going to just stir the rice into the sugar and help the sugar dissolve. Next, press cancel on the Instant Pot to turn it off, and then press the saute button and start it. So to our sugary rice, we're going to add 1.5 cups of milk and stir that for just a sec. So what I like to do is just add 2 cups of water to a liquid measuring cup, and then pour in 1.5 cups of milk into here, and then take 2 eggs and crack them into the remaining 1/2 cup of milk. Now whisk this up. Now the egg mixture is what's going to make our rice pudding nice and thick. So once it starts bubbling a little bit, slowly start pouring in the egg mixture, and this is going to make it thick and custardy. Now simmer this on the saute function for about 5 minutes or until you reach your desired thickness. If the rice pudding gets too bubbly and it's heating up too fast, what you can do is press cancel, turn off the saute function, and turn it to low saute by pressing the saute button and then pressing adjust until it says low. This has been cooking for about 5 minutes, and you can tell that it's bubbling and that it has thickened up. You can tell when it's ready when you mix it and it coats the back of a spoon like this. And like I said, if you need to lower the heat right now, do so you're not splattering rice pudding all over your face. Now that it's thick, I'm going to press the cancel button to turn off saute mode, and then I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of vanilla bean paste. This stuff is very thick, but it's basically the same thing as vanilla. You can just see all those beautiful vanilla beans, and it's amazing. It's so good for this, but if you don't have it, you can use vanilla. Just make sure you're using pure vanilla extract, none of that imitation stuff. When we mix in the vanilla bean paste, you'll start to see all those vanilla bean flecks in there. It's so beautiful. To this, we're also going to add 1 tablespoon of butter for richness and flavor, and then 1/4 cup of heavy cream for richness, flavor, and creaminess. Now we're going to scoop some of that amazing rice pudding into our bowl, and we like to enjoy ours with cinnamon. This is our favorite rice pudding. Look how good this is. You can see those vanilla bean specks. It's perfect for a cold day, for when you're sick, and we like to serve ours with a little cinnamon. If you like yours with raisins, you can add those after the fact, or you can do those when you add in the first 1.5 cups of milk to let them plump up a little bit. We love rice pudding at our house, and enjoy. Thank you so much again for watching this video. If you like it, watch this one next, and again, use the code YouTube to get a discount on my new cookbook. Can't wait for you to have it in your hands and enjoy it.